Ignore her, my father-in-law told the man in front of him. She's just a housewife, a useless housewife. His voice carried over the buzz of the 4th of July military gala, dress uniforms, gowns, flags everywhere. People actually turned to look. I was standing right next to him, holding a glass of club soda, wearing the same mess dress uniform I wear when I brief people who can move fleets with one phone call. He didn't even glance at the medals on my chest. She doesn't belong here, he added, loud enough for the whole circle around us to hear. These events are for real military people and the people who pay for them. Not for stay-at-home moms who got lucky. Someone coughed, someone else laughed under their breath. If you've ever had someone talk about you like you're not standing 6 inches away, you know that hot, buzzing feeling in your neck. That's where I was. The man he was dismissing was looking over Leonard's shoulder, though, not at him, at me. Behind us, the room started to shift. Conversations dipped, heads turned toward the entrance. A 4-star general was cutting a path through the crowd, aides on his heels. People stepped aside the way you do when rank walks in. Leonard straightened up, smoothing his tux. Now that, he said, is someone worth talking to. Watch and learn, sweetheart. He stepped forward, ready to introduce himself. The general didn't even slow down. He put a hand on Leonard's shoulder, pushed him gently but firmly out of the way, and came to a stop right in front of me. Lieutenant Colonel Bennett, he said, call Sign-Spector, ma'am, we need your intel. He snapped a sharp salute. I returned it. My father-in-law turned ghostly white. He had no idea that the useless housewife he'd been mocking was the same intelligence officer who just helped flag his firm in a federal investigation. And he had no idea that night was only phase 1 of what was about to happen to him. I'm Laura Bennett. I'm 39, a mom of 2, and on paper I look like a stay-at-home wife who married into money. In reality, I'm a lieutenant colonel in Air Force intelligence. Most people know me as Spectre. You don't see my job on LinkedIn. I work out of a secure facility a few hours away, and sometimes from a SCIF that looks like an ordinary office. There are days my kids think I go help dad with paperwork because that sounds more normal than analyze threats you'll never hear about on the news. A lot of my work is classified, so in normal life I let people think I'm just home with the kids. It's easier. It's safer. My husband, Mark, knows the basics. He did a short enlistment years ago, got out, and now works at his father's investment firm. He respects what I do, even if he doesn't know all of it. His parents, different story. The first time I met Leonard and Patricia Bennett was at their country club, Big Stone Entrance. Valet, people who have signature cocktails named after them. Leonard shook my hand and immediately looked for my left hand to see the ring. Patricia air-kissed my cheek and did that fast head-to-toe scan people do when they're measuring you. So you're the infamous Laura, Leonard said. The housewife, I smiled. Nice to meet you too, I said. Mark cleared his throat. Dad, she still does reserve work, he said, and she's in intelligence, you know that. Leonard waved a hand. Sure, he said, but she's not deployed anymore. She's home, that's what matters. Somebody has to make sure you eat something besides protein bars. He chuckled at his own joke. At dinner they asked the standard questions. So what do you do all day? Patricia asked, sipping white wine. I keep the kids alive, run the house, and drive on more base roads than I'd like, I said, and I still do some work with the Air Force. Leonard raised an eyebrow. What kind of work? He asked. Mark said you're not allowed to talk about it, which sounds like an excuse for I don't actually have a job. I could feel my jaw clench. It's not exactly something we chat about over dessert, I said. But it's real, he smirked. If you say so, he said. From where I'm sitting, you're just a housewife. Nothing wrong with that, he added like he was doing me a favor. Every dynasty needs someone to manage the home. That was the first time he dropped it. You're just a housewife. Back then, I told myself it was just a line. I had no idea he was going to weaponize it. The pattern grew slowly. At Mark's birthday, Leonard lifted his glass. To my son, he said, who's killing it on the trading floor, and to Laura, who keeps his shirts pressed and the kids fed so he can focus on real work. People laughed. I smiled tightly and took a sip of wine. Inside, I thought I also briefed generals before breakfast, but sure. At a barbecue, one of Leonard's partners asked what I did. Before I could answer, Leonard jumped in. She's our in-house Pinterest expert, he said. Crafts, PTA, soccer, snacks, you name it, she's on it. She's just a housewife, but she's dedicated. There it was again, you're just a housewife. It stung every time, but my job depends on me not broadcasting my actual role. I can't hand out business cards that say, "Hi, I read other government secrets." So I let it slide. Have you ever let someone believe you're just something because you can't explain the full picture? It's a weird kind of trap. The comments would have been bad enough on their own, but they were just the warm-up. The first time he crossed a real line was at a family dinner in their formal dining room. Leonard poured me a glass of wine I didn't really want and sat down across from me. "You know, Laura," he said casually, "our firm has been looking at a company that contracts with the Air Force. Big defense contractor, lots of government money. You must hear about them all the time." I shrugged. "We see a lot of names," I said. "I don't talk about any of them." He leaned in. "Come on," he said. "Nothing detailed, just a gut feeling. Are they solid? Any whispers about losing contracts?" "That kind of thing, that's still classified," I said. "Even the whispers." He rolled his eyes. "Please," he said, "you think those guys don't leak like sieves? We're talking about protecting our family's money here." "You live off that too, you know." Mark shifted in his chair. "Dad, stop," he said. "She can't answer that." Leonard waved him off. "I'm not asking for nuclear launch codes," he said. "I just want to know if I should short the stock." I set my fork down. "If I share anything I learn in my job for your trades," I said quietly, "I go to prison. That's not a joke. I could lose my clearance, my rank, everything." "Don't ask me again." He stared at me like I'd just insulted him. "Relax," he said finally. "It was a question. You don't have to be so dramatic." But I saw something shift in his eyes. A little flash of annoyance, like I'd refused to do something he was entitled to. Back then, I thought it would blow over. I had no idea he was already thinking of another angle. A few weeks later, security called me in for a routine interview. The kind where they say routine, but there's a folder on the table with your name on it. My stomach knotted. The investigator asked standard questions at first. Financial stress, foreign contacts, that sort of thing. Then he flipped a page. "We received an anonymous concern," he said. "Someone close to you suggested you might be struggling, drinking more, feeling overwhelmed. They mentioned you ranting about classified topics at family dinners." My mouth went dry. "Who?" I asked. He didn't answer that, of course. "Is there any truth to that?" he asked. "No," I said. "I don't drink like that. And I definitely don't rant about my work at dinner. Half the time I let them think I'm just home baking brownies." He nodded, watching me closely. "Has anyone ever pressured you to share non-public information?" he asked. "Even as a joke," Leonard's voice flashed through my head. "Should I short the stock?" "Yes," I said. "My father-in-law." I shut it down immediately. It made me uncomfortable. We talked more. I stayed calm. On the way out, he said, "For what it's worth, the details in the anonymous report matched language we've seen in other situations where family members want leverage. We're not seeing any red flags on you. But if anything escalates, you let us know." I walked out of that building with my badge still working. Then I got in my car and fell apart. I sat in the parking lot, stared at the steering wheel, and ugly cried for 10 straight minutes. Not because of the interview itself. I've been grilled harder, because someone had tried to use my clearance, my career, as a weapon, because I knew exactly who it was, because the phrase, "you're just a housewife," suddenly felt less like an insult and more like a goal. If you've ever had someone try to take away the one part of you that feels solid, you know that kind of shaking anger. I wiped my face, took a breath, and drove home. That night, I stopped being polite about it. Mark and I sat at our kitchen table after the kids were in bed. He could tell something was off. "What happened?" he asked. "Security interview," I said. "Anonymous report. Someone told them I drink too much and rant about classified things at dinner." His face tightened. "Who would even?" "Your father," I said. "He used the same phrases. He brought up that defense contractor again." The investigator said it sounded like someone looking for leverage. Mark looked sick. "He wouldn't," he said, then he paused. "Actually, he would," I nodded. "Mark, listen," I said. "I need you to understand how serious this is. If IG decided that complaint had any truth, I'd lose my clearance, my career, I could face charges. This isn't just him being rude anymore." He swallowed. "I'll talk to him," he said. "No," I said. "This isn't just a talk to him situation. We need to be clear about something." He watched me, nervous. "I love you," I said, "but I will not let your father wreck my career and then sit across from him at Sunday dinner like nothing happened. If you can't stand with me on this, I'm out. I won't raise our kids in a house where 'you're just a housewife' is the weapon he uses every time he wants control." He looked like I'd punched him. "I don't want to lose you," he said quietly. "Then don't stand in the middle," I said. "Pick a side. Either you make it clear to him that my job, my clearance, and my basic respect are not negotiable, or you keep chasing his approval and I take the kids and go." The words hung there. Have you ever had to make that kind of line in the on speech? It feels awful, but it also feels honest. After a long minute, Mark nodded. I'm with you, he said. I should have been firmer before. I'll fix it. That's not something you fix with one phone call, I said. But you can start by not letting him drag me to every event so he can take shots at me. He tried, he really did. But Leonard wasn't the type to back down quietly, and he still had one more play. The 4th of July gala invitation showed up a month later. It's a big deal in our city. Military, donors, politicians. Leonard's firm always sponsors a table. Patricia called me. You are coming this year, she said. The general they invited is a big client of your father-in-law's. Mark will look bad if his wife isn't there. I'm on call that week, I said. I might have to step out. Step out, she repeated as if I'd said go to the moon. Laura, you're a housewife. You're not doing heart surgery. You can leave the phone in your bag for a night. There it was again. You're just a housewife. I almost said no, then my work phone buzzed. It was a secure message about an ongoing investigation, a joint case with federal agencies into insider trading tied to defense contracts. Some trades lined up suspiciously well with classified contract awards. One of the firms under review, Bennett Capital, Leonard's company. My eyes skimmed the names and dates. He'd been trying to get intel from me at the same time his traders were making some very lucky moves. I stared at the screen and felt something settle inside me. I called my point of contact on the case. It's Bennett, I said. He tried to get me to share inside info. I shut him down, but I can give you details. We set up a time. I pulled every email, every text where he'd hinted about trades. I wrote down exact quotes. Should I short the stock? You live off this money too. You're just a housewife, you could at least help. Spectre keeps receipts. When I finished, I looked at the gala invite again. I texted Patricia. We'll be there, I wrote. Because if there's one thing I know how to do, it's stage a scene. And I had no idea yet just how perfect that scene was going to be. The meeting with the investigators was straightforward. I sat in a small conference room with 2 people from my side and 1 from the SEC. We went over dates, quotes, and trade records. Did you ever share any non-public information with Mr. Bennett? They asked. No, I said. I shut him down every time. I also reported the interactions as soon as the security interview made it clear he was trying to use my job. I handed over my notes and a thumb drive with emails and texts. They showed me a chart with Bennett Capital's trades around certain contract announcements. It wasn't pretty. Your cooperation helps a lot, the SEC guy said. We suspected he was getting something from somewhere. Knowing he tried to lean on you and you refused gives us context. Spectre will handle the heavy lift from here, my boss said later. Just keep doing your job. And if he pushes you again, record it if you can and call us. I nodded. On my way out, I paused. There's a gala coming up, I said. He'll be there, so will a 4-star who's part of this case. If anything need to know comes up that night, do you mind if we discuss it in front of a few extra witnesses? My boss smiled. Spectre, he said, if a teaching moment presents itself, I'm not going to stand in your way. That's how phase 1 of the plan really took shape. I wasn't going to argue with Leonard anymore. I was going to let his own mouth hang him in front of the people whose opinion he craved most. The night of the gala, I put on my mess dress uniform. Mark watched me from the doorway. I still think you're the most terrifying person in that room, he said, trying to joke. I'm not trying to be terrifying, I said. I just want him to stop getting away with it. He came over and adjusted my bow tie like he'd seen me do 100 times. For what it's worth, he said, I talked to him after that security interview. I told him what he did was out of line. He acted like I was overreacting. This might be the only language he understands. Consequences, I said. Exactly, he said. In the car, he reached for my hand. If he starts in on you again, he said, I'm not waiting this time. I'm shutting it down. Good, I said, because I'm not staying quiet either. Have you ever gone into a family event already braced for a fight? It's like wearing armor under your clothes. I walked into that ballroom as Spectre, not just a housewife. Leonard just didn't know it yet. Patricia lit up when she saw us. There you are, she said. Laura, you look official. That's kind of the point, I said. Leonard glanced up from his conversation with a senator. His eyes flicked over my uniform, then he smirked. Look who finally dressed up, he said. Trying to impress the real military tonight? I didn't bite. We found our seats. The program started. Speeches, honor guards, the usual. Leonard spent half the night leaning over to whisper snide comments. See that guy, he'd say, nodding at a colonel across the room. Real rank, real responsibilities, not just PTA meetings and yoga classes. Every time I bit down on the urge to list my deployments. Because I knew what was coming. Right before the general's entrance, Leonard was talking to a small group of donors and officers. I was standing with Mark at the edge of the circle, nodding and smiling when appropriate. One of the donors turned to me. "And what do you do, dear?" she asked. Before I could open my mouth, Leonard laughed. "Don't worry about her," he said. "She's just a housewife, useless when it comes to this stuff. She doesn't belong in these conversations." He actually added, "Ignore her," with a wave of his hand. It landed like a slap. Mark stiffened. "Dad," he started, and that's exactly when the room shifted. The doors opened. The four-star general walked in. You already know what happened next. People moved out of his way without thinking. Leonard puffed up like a peacock, ready to pounce on his big client. He started to step forward, hand outstretched. The general put a hand on his shoulder and moved him aside like he weighed nothing. He came straight to me. "Lieutenant Colonel Bennett," he said. "Spectre, ma'am, we need your intel." Everything went quiet. A few people actually stood a little straighter without realizing it. Once you've worn a uniform, some habits never leave. I returned his salute. "Sir," I said, "didn't expect to see you here tonight. Duty doesn't take holidays," he said. "And apparently neither do SEC investigators." He said that part just loud enough for a few people nearby to hear, including Leonard. I saw Leonard's eyes flick back and forth between us, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. "Would you mind stepping aside for a few minutes after the program?" the general asked. "We need Spectre's read on some patterns tied to a certain investment firm, time-sensitive." He looked straight at Leonard when he said investment firm. Leonard's mouth opened. "Nothing came out, of course, sir," I said. "Happy to help." "Good," he said. "This whole operation would be blind without your work. People forget the war rooms are full of housewives, apparently." That got a few nervous laughs. He turned to Leonard then like he was just noticing him. "And you must be Mr. Bennett," he said. "We've seen your name on some reports." Leonard swallowed. "All positive, I hope," he said weakly. The general didn't answer that. He just smiled, that polite, terrifying smile generals have when they know more than you and don't mind that you know they know more. Then he moved on. Conversations slowly started again, but the tone had changed. Leonard's friends were watching him now, not me. In that moment, "You're just a housewife" sounded ridiculous, even in his own head. Phase 1 was done. Phase 2 was already in motion. A couple of weeks later, Bennett Capital got a visit, not from me, from people with badges. Mark came home that day looking shell-shocked. "They walked into the office mid-morning," he said. "Agents. SEC, FBI, some people from duty. They took copies of everything. Laptops, trading records, phones." I listened, quiet. "They pulled Dad into a conference room," he went on. "They were in there for hours. When he came out, he looked old." "What did they say to you?" I asked. "They asked what I knew," he said. "I told them the truth. I told them he tried to get intel from you, that you shut him down. That you reported it." He rubbed his face. "They had recordings, Laura," he said. "Actual recordings, him hinting about trades, bragging that he had a kernel in his pocket if he needed information. He was dumb enough to say it on company lines. Spectre keeps receipts." "I'm sorry you had to be there for that," I said. He shook his head. "I'm sorry I didn't listen harder when you first told me," he said. "They showed me charts. Trades timed right after certain contract decisions. It's bad." "How bad?" I asked. "Best case, huge fines and a ban from the industry," he said. "Worst case, prison." He looked at me. "I quit," he said quietly. "I handed in my resignation after they finished with me. I'm not going down with him. I can find another job. I can't find another you." That hit me harder than I expected. If you've ever wondered whether your partner will actually choose you over their family, you know what that kind of moment means. We braced for the fallout. It came fast. The formal charges took a few months, but the social damage started immediately. Board seats went on pause. Invitations dried up. People who used to hang on Leonard's every word suddenly had plans. When the indictment finally came, it was all over the local news. "Investment firm CEO charged in insider trading scheme," the headlines said. They named the company, they named him. They did not name me. That was intentional. My part stayed buried in official reports. But in our circle, people connected the dots. I ran into one of Leonard's old buddies at the grocery store. He looked at the kids, then at me. "He really thought you were just a housewife," he said, shaking his head. "Turns out you were the one with the real power." I didn't say anything to that. I just pushed the cart. Leonard called once, months into the mess. The caller ID made my stomach tighten, but I answered. He sounded smaller. "Laura," he said. "We need to talk." I stayed quiet. "I know things got out of hand," he said. "You're close to those people, the general, the agencies. You could put in a word, tell them I'm not a bad guy. I was just trying to protect the family. You live off this money too." There it was again, he still didn't get it. "Leonard," I said, "I told you the first time you asked, I don't use my job for your trades, I protect this country. That includes protecting it from people who think they're above the rules." "I'm your family," he said. "Don't I matter more than some strangers on a spreadsheet? Those strangers have kids just like ours," I said. "And your protecting the family meant risking everything I am, my clearance, my rank, my freedom." Silence. "You're the one who told me you're just a housewife," I added. "Maybe start treating me like more than that before you ask me to save you." He tried one more time. "So you're just going to sit there and let them destroy me?" he asked. "I'm going to sit here and fold my kids' laundry," I said, "because I can be a housewife and a colonel at the same time. Your choices are on you." Then I hung up. I didn't feel triumphant, I just felt done. Leonard ended up taking a plea deal. He avoided prison barely, but he lost almost everything he cared about. Massive fines, permanent ban from the securities industry. He had to sell the lake house to cover part of it. The firm he'd bragged about for decades was taken over by another company. His name came down from the glass building downtown. The plaque at the country club that used to say Bennett Capital Lounge quietly changed to Founders Lounge. Someone else's name went on the donor wall at the hospital. He kept his big house, but inside it he was stuck. No more big client calls, no more being the center of the room. One day, months later, we saw him at a small family birthday for one of Mark's cousins. We'd agreed to go for the cousin's sake with clear boundaries. He looked older. Smaller suit, less swagger. He avoided me most of the night. At one point, I stepped out on the patio to take a call from work. When I came back in, I caught the tail end of him talking to a younger relative. "And now your Aunt Laura's the one everyone listens to," he was saying. Who'd have thought? Our eyes met. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. He knew. Life for us looks different now. Mark works for a smaller firm with no family ties. Less money, more peace. I'm still in Intel, still Spectre, still doing the job nobody sees. I'm also still a mom who packs lunches and bakes cupcakes for school when I have time. People on the outside still sometimes call me just a housewife. I let them because I know better, because the 4-star who walked past Leonard and saluted me first knows better. Because the investigators who used my notes to crack an insider trading ring know better. If you've ever been told you're just a housewife, or you're just a whatever, I want you to ask yourself, who actually benefits from you believing that? Is it you, or the person who's scared of what happens if you act like the full version of yourself? Leonard used that line on me so many times. "You're just a housewife." He said it at dinner. He said it in front of his friends. He said it while he tried to use me like a tool. Now, when people talk about what happened, they don't say Leonard Bennett, financial genius. They say the guy who thought his daughter-in-law was just a housewife until a general blew up his ego in front of everybody and the feds came for his firm. Funny how that works. So yeah, in his story, I was just a housewife. In mine, I'm the housewife who helped take down his empire and still made it home in time to tuck the kids in. Spectre out.